now we're moving on to Genesis chapter 5. Okay, and again, you're going to continue to see the linkage here. Okay, I'm going to confess to you that this whole book, the whole book of the Bible, the whole book, 66 books are linked, okay, in a dynamic way that I believe no man on earth could have sat down and said, I'm going to write this together and have it linked in all of these different supernatural ways. Okay, there's no way. Okay, like I said previously, the more times you see these links, the more and more this is going to become real to you. Okay, so just key takeaways from the last chapter. Adam and Eve had two children that were mentioned, Cain and Abel. Okay, Cain was the firstborn, then Abel was second. We know that Abel was a righteous man, but Cain was a wicked man. Okay, we know that Abel's offering was accepted before the Lord and Cain's offering was rejected before the Lord. We also know that Cain turned around and killed his brother. Okay, and then we also see at the end of the chapter that Seth, another child that's mentioned, came in the stead of Abel. So he replaced Abel in that lineage. We hear Eve say that God has appointed another seed, okay, instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. So the narrative is clear that that seed of the woman is continually going, and it's important here because we're going to see it in this what we call genealogy. And the reason this chapter is really important is because we're going to literally, it's like a descent. We're going to descend from Adam all the way down to the next key figure in the narrative of the Bible on our lineage to Jesus Christ. Okay, so verse 1, we see this, the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Okay, so this is Adam's generation. Okay, remember I said previously, notice the pattern and also look out for things that are deviating the pattern. So what we're going to see here is we're going to see literally a man. We're going to see his age. Typically, we're going to see him have a child, a key child, okay, which is essential to the lineage, to the line, the family tree from Adam, as we're going all the way through the scriptures to Jesus Christ. Then we're going to see that person live for however many years and have children. That's the general theme through this pattern through this chapter. But what we're also going to see is a few characters in this chapter that breach that pattern, and it's important to notice these people because they're really significant. Okay, so it says, verse 2, male and female created he them, and he blessed them and called their name Adam in the day when they were created. Okay, so you're starting the pattern now. Verse 3, and Adam lived 130 years, so he's 130, and he begat in his own likeness after his image and called his name Seth. So remember last chapter we talked about Cain, we talked about Abel, we talked about Seth. Okay, because this is a key significant line, we're talking about Adam now. First and foremost, at the end of this chapter we're going to get to Noah, which is kind of, like I mentioned, the next key important figure in the narrative of the scriptures. We'll see as we continue to read 6 and 7. So that's obviously important. So now we see Seth. Now it's important that we heard a little bit about Cain's family tree last chapter. Now we're seeing Adam, his sort of family tree, which is the important family tree. Okay, and it's important that it's designated this whole chapter, and there's so much stuff going on here, but we're just going to keep to some of the simplicity things here so I don't just confuse you. Okay, so the days of Adam after he had begotten Seth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. So he had this key child Seth that we read about last chapter. We read that after he had Seth, he lived for 800 years, and then he had more sons and daughters, okay, that we have no recollection of. Now, I want you to remember that and understand that there's probably loads and loads of people in the earth as we're going on. We're hearing here he had sons and daughters over a span of 800 years. We hear nothing about these children. The reason I believe it's like that is because we're like I keep saying it time and time again, we're focusing on the line to Christ. So a lot of the time when you're looking at a timeline and a family tree, you're going to only focus more times than not on the important people in that lineage. Because it would take so much time to list all these sons and daughters out, okay? Okay, so, and all the days of Adam were 930 years and he died. Okay, so he lived for 930 years in total and then he died, okay? And I'll touch on that later on as well. Okay, and Seth lived 105 years. Okay, so he lived 105 years and he begat Enos. We read about Enos, him begetting Enos in the last chapter. And Seth lived after he begat Enos 807 years and he begat sons and daughters. So the pattern is continuing on. And all the days of Seth were 912 years and he died. So one thing also we can see in the pattern is that time is decreasing. Okay. Adam lived to 130 and then had this key child. Seth lived to 105 and had the key child. Adam died at 930. Seth died at 912. Okay, so time is pretty much winding down, so to speak. So Enos lived 90 years and begat Canaan. Okay, and Enos lived after he begat Canaan 815 years and begat sons and daughters. Continuing on. And all the days of Enos were 905 years and he died. So we're still going lower. And Canaan lived 70 years and begat Mahalalel. Okay. And Canaan lived after he begat Mahalalel 840 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Canaan were 910 years and he died. So you see that previously it was 905. Now we see 910. So that's something that's obviously broken the pattern. Why? We don't know. Okay, and Mahalalel lived 65 years. That's still going down. And begat Yared. And Mahalalel lived after he begat Yared 830 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years and he died. So it's back on course where now it's continuing to go down. And Yared lived 162 years. So we've seen people go down in years, and all of a sudden there's a man called Yared who lives 162 years, which is large. Even Adam didn't live 162 years before he had this special child, so to speak. And he begat Enoch. Okay, and Yared lived after he begat Enoch 800 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Yared were 962 years and he died. So remember, now at this point, this is what we call the oldest person in the Bible. Adam lived to 930. Yared lived to 962 years. I can only expect that he must have just done good things, basically, and was pleasing to the Lord. So God gave him a long life. Okay. And Enoch lived 65 years. Okay, so we've gone back to that low age bracket, okay, when you're having this key child. And he begat Methuselah. And Enoch walked with God after he begat Methuselah 300 years and begat sons and daughters. So now we see a key break in this pattern, because we didn't hear about anybody else walking with God. We just heard they lived for this amount of years and then begat sons and daughters. But it says Enoch here walked with God for 300 years, okay, and begat sons and daughters. It's important because this is a very important verse to me in the scriptures, because it highlights that children are not an excuse not to have a strong relationship with God. This man walks with God for 300 years while still having children, okay? And it's easy for some people to say, well, I've got kids, they get in the way of my devotion and all these kind of things. But this is a key example of someone who didn't let his children get in the way of his devotion, okay? It wasn't an excuse that he was going to rely on, okay? And all the days of Enoch were 365 years. So we're reading about 900 and 800, etc. Then all of a sudden we have a man that only lived 365 years. Okay? And listen to what the next verse says. And Enoch walked with God. Okay, we hear that verse again, that statement again. And he not, for God took him. Okay, so immediately now it just moves on to Methuselah. It has nothing about Enoch's death. Okay, which is key, because what we're going to see, and we've seen already, is that the man has a special child, the key child in the lineage, lives for a certain amount of time, has all these sons and daughters, and then dies. While with Enoch, we just hear continually that he walked with God. Okay, he lived an extremely short life compared to whatever all the other people have seen, and it doesn't say anything about his death. Okay, we'll see throughout the scriptures that Enoch wasn't killed. Okay, it says God took him. This is, and we allude to the same taking of Elijah in the book of Kings. Okay, because Elijah was someone else that didn't die in his time as well, which is important. Another key insight we get into Enoch is from the New Testament. We see in the book of Jude that he prophesied about Jesus Christ. Okay, not only about Jesus coming, the coming of Jesus Christ that we know about a few thousand years ago. He prophesied about the second coming of Jesus Christ, which to date hasn't even happened yet, which always is mind-boggling to me because it shows the foresight that Enoch had. Okay, that's a mighty prophetic calling on his life, and that gives us more insight to the kind of man Enoch actually was. When God is giving you those kind of revelations, it's really important. Okay, so Enoch didn't die. Verse 25, and Methuselah lived 187 years. Again, we have another spike. Okay, and he begat Lamech. Now, this isn't the Lamech from the previous chapter, which was we can call him the evil Lamech. This is, I'd say we can call him the righteous Lamech, okay, from the line of Seth. Okay, and Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 782 years and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. So he is now, what would say, the oldest person in the Bible. He lived to 969 years. Okay. And I want to highlight this because this chapter is highlighting so many different things. There's so many subtle things that you probably won't receive the first time you read this, okay, if you're reading this by yourself. But I want to go back to something God said, which a lot of people don't understand, okay. God said to Adam, don't eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because in the day you eat on that fruit, you will surely die. Now, a lot of people don't understand what actually happened. They say to themselves, why didn't Adam just drop dead? Okay, and the reason they say that is because they just naturally think about it through the lens of Adam. Okay, but what you really need to think about is through the lens of God. Okay, so spiritually they did die. Okay, and you can see that as all these people went on, they started dying. Okay, they could have just lived forever, basically, if they didn't eat of that fruit, if they never ate of that fruit. But they did eat of the fruit, so spiritually they died. But more importantly, we see in the Bible, okay, that a day to the Lord is like 1,000. Okay, and 1,000 is like a day. Okay, it even says in Psalms 90, that's one of the places it says it. It says that, or it's like a watch in the night. A watch in the night is like a quarter of the night. So we'd say there's 12 hours in the night time. So we'd say 3, 6, 9, 12. So it's like 3 hours. So in Psalms 90, it says a day is as like 1,000 years with the Lord. Okay, or it's just like a watch in the night. So it's like 3 hours. Okay. And the reason that's key is because it seems a bit abstract, but it highlights what's actually going on here. You can see Methuselah, he's the oldest man recorded in the Bible, 969 years. Okay, not one man in this Bible reached 1,000 years, let alone past 1,000 years. And the reason that's essential is because what God said was true. Okay, in that day you will surely die. In those 1,000 years, no man lived past 1,000 years. So what God was saying was true. In that day you will surely die, because no man lived to 1,000 years, which is really essential. Okay. And Lamech lived 182 years and begat a son. Okay. This whole structure is a bit different, because it would normally say he lived and then begat this son, but it says it a bit different. It says he called his name Noah. Okay, this is the person I was talking about, who's the next key character, saying, this shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord have cursed. So Lamech now lives this sort of longish life in comparison to most of the other characters that we've read about so far. But he calls his son Noah, which means comfort or rest. And you can see here he's prophesying. Okay, he's telling us why he's naming him Noah. Okay, why is he calling him comfort or rest? And he says, because he will comfort us concerning our work. Okay, and the toil of our hands, because the ground which the Lord cursed. Because remember, God pronounced judgment on Adam. He said, cursed is the ground. So Lamech is now prophesying over his son and saying, this is going to be comfort or rest, Noah. Okay, because he's going to comfort us concerning the ground which the Lord had cursed. Okay, which is obviously essential. So he breaks the chain here in a significant way, because no one else really prophesied outwardly anyway of the importance of their son. Okay, and Lamech lived after he begat Noah 595 years and begat sons and daughters. Okay, so the time is still going down. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. So 777. If that's of any interest to you, 7 is seen as the number of God. So 777, okay, is obviously really essential. Okay, because in some people's eyes anyway, because it's the number of God 3 times. You can link that to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which we'd call the Trinity or the Godhead, if you want to just keep it 100% scriptural. That's obviously important. Okay, it's going to be really significant as well in regards to what happens later on in regards to Noah. Okay, which is obviously essential. Okay, and it says here, Noah was 500 years old. Okay, so Noah just broke this thing out of the park. Everyone's 130 or 180 or 60 or 80 or 90. Well, Noah lived 500 years and then had not only one son, he had Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, 3 different sons are mentioned here, which is obviously different. Okay, because he not only lived an extended life before having these kids, which is different to most of these other characters that I've read about, he also mentions here 3 children. Now, going by the theme that we've through the scripture, we've got the one key child mentioned here. Okay, time and time again. Now, I believe, okay, and going based on the theme throughout this chapter, that the 3 people are mentioned here because all 3 of them are significant. Okay, but like I keep saying time and time again, I want you to continually remember as you go through the scriptures to remember that we're heading from Adam to Jesus, the line to Jesus Christ. Okay, and why the 3rd person? Well, we're going to cover that later on. Okay, now this is essential, and it was actually really intriguing to me when God gave me some insight into why 3 people are mentioned here. Okay, we'll talk about that later on. Okay, which is really essential.